in this session called the Economics of Neopopulism, a question on, right there on your QR, pull your phones and answer the question to answer what's populism's most enduring economic legacy. And we have four options. We have protectionist trade barriers, interventionist industrial policies, more restrictions on migration, and bigger fiscal deficits. So I'm going to come back when you have time to answer this question. I also have my answer. But I'm going to start first with you, Arminio. And I think we live in a moment which is slightly contradictory. We have all these topics that we've been talking this morning, trade tariffs, populist, fiscal deficits, wars, obviously. But at the same time, if we look at the indicators of the world economy, we're not doing that bad. The IMF just released their World Economic Outlook yesterday. It says that the world economy is going to grow 3.3% next year, 3.1% next year, 3.3% this year. Global trade, despite all the tariffs rhetoric, is going to grow 3% this year and next. How much of this is just political rhetoric, and how much is a structural change of the economic system?
I think you have to be careful not to extrapolate from the past. I think we are going through a very complicated moment. There's all the issues that we see every day, but climate change, a sort of a new Cold War, what's going on in the Middle East, the impact of technology, all the issues around the quality of democracies all over the world. So a lot of debt, the IMF is coming out now yelling, and I think they're right. We're piling up just way too much debt before a moment where so many things could demand strong responses from government. So I'm not comfortable. I do think sometimes we pay too much attention to the rear view mirror. This could be like that moment before a tsunami where the water kind of goes away,
and then it comes back.
And then people relax and they go for a picnic in the sand, and the rest, it's not good.
But the issue is that people is not relaxed, right? I mean, everybody is concerned. That's part of the things that we are debating today. Stefan, your view on this?
Well, look, I think in general you see that economic development not directly correlates with political development. You just look at the United States, right? People are saying this country is so divided, politically a lot of tension, and still economy is doing exceptionally well. So I think there's not in general a correlation between political tensions and economic development, but I agree. I think we live in a world where we will see strategic changes over the years, and we can discuss that in a moment a bit more.
So would you say this is a total repudiation of the economic system that has been the structure of the global economy in the last decades?
I think this, we have had trouble. People who live in this planet, our governments, we have had a lot of trouble coordinating to do things. Like take trade. Trade is okay, but for years we're waiting another round, and it's not happening. So there are a lot of indicators pointing towards difficulties, including the ones I just mentioned. So I think this is just more of something that we're going to have to deal with.
So a structural change that we still haven't seen. What's the format?
Well,
we will see like trade barriers, we see a less global world. That's your view?
So I think there's structural change. It's hard for us to see because we are sitting in the middle of it. So it's hard to step back and try to analyze what's going on because we are right in the middle. I would describe it, there are two major developments. One is we, on a geopolitical scene, we now, so to say, realize that we are still in a competition of systems, political and social systems, which for 20, 25 years, was a little bit buried under other priorities that we had. And now, after the pandemic, after the Ukraine war broke out, we, especially in the West, we realize, there is a competition of system. The second that we are seeing is more on the trade side. I think, to simplify it a little bit, we are back to a pre-WTO time. So we dialed back, so it doesn't mean there's no trade, but the mechanics that we are using and the relationship between politics and trade, we are back to more pre-WTO times.
So much less cooperation, much more friction, much more open conflict, all of this.
And utilizing a nation power to impose their own interest in trade and direct investment policies.
Let's see the result of our poll. It's quite competitive, right? And if I see, I think it's more restrictions on immigration is slightly ahead with 35%, 34% bigger fiscal deficits, 24, if I can see correctly, it says protectionist trade tariffs, and just 7% for interventionist industrial policies. I actually tend to agree. I think, the biggest impact of this period will be on immigration. That's my personal view. How is Europe handling it? How is the US handling this?
So, I think it's indeed a major topic that you see across what I would call Western world. It's in North America and the US, but also in Europe. Immigration is a preeminent political topic. I would say to a large extent because for many years we did not pay attention from a policy perspective to these items. And if I just look at Germany, for example, that a large immigration wave started in 2015 and 16, but we did not pay sufficient attention to how to integrate these people into our societies. So we tried to, so to say, look to the side a little bit, and now it's coming back at us. So I think it's a challenge in the way, how do we handle immigration and integrate people in our societies? And the second is that from a pure economic perspective, in the developed world, we need immigration, right? With the birth rates we have.
Fertility rates coming down that quick.
And these are the tensions that we need to try to master better than we did in the previous years.
Arminio, for Latin America and for Brazil, migration is a slightly different topic, right? Because we send a lot of people, but also we have a lot of internal migration. Brazil, for instance, is receiving a lot of people as well from neighboring countries. What you see should be the policy there? Should we have a more friendly approach, also considering that they're getting older very quickly?
I think there are two different trends. One is just simply Venezuela. It's a major event for the region. And this isn't going to get any better. So we need to deal with that. The other one for us is at the other end of say, the productivity spectrum is outward migration of qualified people, of people with entrepreneurial energy, and we seem to be losing. And this is leading to, I think, the understanding that we also need to attract more qualified, well-trained people while we get our act together on education. But there's nothing here that compares to the tension you see, I think, in Europe and even in the US. I think it's something we can deal with, particularly if we can get our act together on kind of our economic development strategy. We should be able to attract a lot of people.
Top
and
talent.
Capital, all of the above. At the moment, we're investing very little as a nation, 17% of GDP. I think in a way, trying to find a path that has eluded us for over 40 years. We've had very slow growth for 40 years here.
Yeah. I want to remind everybody that if you want to ask a question to Arminio, Stefan, you can use the QR, send us a question, and we try to pose it. You mentioned the competition, right? Where we are in this US-China competition, where should Latin America stay? How is this an opportunity for the region?
Well, obviously, it's not on me to give you advice what to do, but I think it is an inflection point. So I think Latin American countries probably sooner or later, would be my guess, also need to make decisions, so to say, what camp you are leaning more towards to. I don't think you can forever sustain in a policy to be neutral and play all sides. But again, it's not on me to give you advice.
So, Arminio, Brazil has this strategy trying to be nice to everybody or try to stay in the middle. Is that sustainable?
No.
Why?
We've shown over the years some dubious taste in the people we hang out with, people we take pictures with. I think we must have very clearly in our minds that we are a Western country. We're not, it doesn't seem so clear to many people. I do think, however, that we are a natural multilateral trading partner. So historically, these deeper issues have not gotten in the way of us being able to trade. But that's one thing. Another thing is really who we are, what we think about ourselves, what our roots are, and where we want to go.
So you mean on a strategic point of view, Brazil should be looking at the US and the Western Hemisphere, but still trading with China, because the China influence is very real. It's by large the largest trade buyer of Brazil products.
Sure. No, I think I have nothing against trading. I think we should be trading more. The planet should be trading more. I think we're going in the wrong direction. I just think our positions as it relates to democracy, human rights, and so on should be crystal clear, and we should not budge.
Let's tackle the elephant in the room, the US election in less than 2 weeks. Scenarios, please, Stefan.
Well, look, first of all, I think it is very likely that we will see a divided government, which I think is one of the most important observations. So if Trump wins the election, it's still a good likelihood that he will not be able to win the House. Senate, it's likely going to be Republican. And if Ms. Harris wins the White House, it's pretty clear that it will be divided because the Senate is very likely to go to Republicans, which I think is a very important takeaway if it's a divided government, because it will dilute on both scenarios a lot of the policies that they have laid out, and in essence bring into effect the checks and balances that the American system is built on. Beyond that, I think in the Harris administration, we will see to a fair amount a continuation of the Biden policies that we have seen so far, domestically and in foreign policy. Whereas in the Trump administration, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to predict that a lot of what he's now saying he will do, especially on trade and trade barriers. But my understanding is especially to create leverage with certain partners.
To negotiate.
And obviously, well, towards China, but also as Germans, we look at that with anxiety, right? Because we have a huge trade surplus with the United States. So the question is, how is that administration handling the German relationship?
Arminio, how realistic are these threats of imposing 100%, 200%, 2,000% tariffs, as Trump said, John Mikowicz last week?
I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, he plays this negotiating game in a way that is new to the world. I hope it's just that is a way to achieve some gains for the U.S. But I do think at the end of the day, and we talked about this as a race between systems, that if we are to do well, if the planet is to grow up healthy, peaceful, the US and Europe have to keep demonstrating that our system is better. I have no doubt about that. I look at China now, even though they save and invest north of 40% of GDP, they have their troubles as well. And I think at the end of the day, we just have to stick to our principles. And amongst them, I believe, very highly in the pile is trade, for sure.
Let me ask you about this, because it's interesting. We see all these protectionism threats from Trump, but Brazil is already a very protectionist country. It's one of the actually most protectionist country. What does it mean for Brazil? It means that it will be even more protectionist, or this is an opportunity that the country could take to lead on the other side, on the other movement of this?
The pressure right now is to go in the wrong direction. We just had recently some tariffs increased, I think, in the steel sector. So the pressure is, and this is not new, but the pressure comes from special interests, and they seem to get their way. So short term, I don't know. Longer term, Brazil probably wasted a lot of time waiting for a big WTO agreement and missed the boat on all the deals that were being cut all over the world. Hopefully we'll learn the lesson and we'll keep moving in the right direction. That's kind of my hope. But short term, my crystal ball is very fuzzy.
But what would be your idea policy if you were in Brasilia now? Would we try to...
I think I would like to see a gradual automatic decrease in protection, unilateral if necessary, yes. But some people may think, oh, you're stupid because, you have some negotiating chips and you should use them. Well, hell, we've been holding these chips forever and they are rotting.
Stefan, how multinationals like Deutsche Bank navigate this world? Because, as I said at the beginning, right, it looks very volatile, but at the same time, there is a great opportunity to do a lot of money.
Yeah, so look, I think it starts with having a clear guidance and North Star. You said we need to make a choice where are our fundamentals, and for us as a German and European institution, we are rooted in German and European culture and political, so to say, foundations. And from there, you build a global network and operate a global network, but always on these foundations. But you also be very open to invest in different markets and jurisdictions and political systems, try to understand them and try to connect the dots, because in essence what we do is follow our clients, right? And if I look at the German economy and their networks in Asia, in China, and all over the world, that is what we follow. And the challenge for us is to navigate these geopolitical and geoeconomic tensions. The way I would describe it, it's in essence having a very good understanding what the risks are, be able to move fast in and out, and in essence have very strong risk capabilities, because in the end, banking is risk management.
Also get your phone very close when you go to sleep. Can you imagine,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
We have a few good questions. And maybe this one for you, Arminio. We're talking about global alignment, but what about alignment among Latin American countries? How is Brazil promoting more cohesiveness in the region?
This has been difficult over the years, particularly if you look at the history of Mercosur. We seem to be out of sync all the time with one another, particularly with Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Argentina, for us, is the key. The countries to the west of the Andes are somehow far from us, not politically, culturally. And then you have Venezuela. This is work in progress. I'm not pessimistic, but I don't expect any breakthroughs in the near term.
Stefan, Arminio mentioned the IMF warnings in terms of debt. You as a German can tell us about fiscal austerity, but why so worrying to have countries like the US, Brazil, France going over these massive fiscal deficits?
Well, in the end, it's about two questions. One is, can you service the debt that you have? And the even more important is, can you generate enough growth, GDP growth, over the years, again and again, to support the debt levels that you have? And that is the anxiety in France, in Italy, in the United States. So far, it works. But if you look at the Germans have a different mindset. So we run a very low debt ratio, and we are scared on more deficit spending. The question that raises, and it's now debated in Germany, is whether we deprive ourselves of growth expectations because we are just too hawkish.
So you have the opposite problem to Brazil.
Indeed. Although you cannot, or it's hard to compare because we are a fully developed country and number 3 in the world. I think the economic mechanics are different towards a developed
Arminio, I have also a challenging question. Why are Brazilians always so negative about Brazil?
I don't.
It's written here.
Well, for one, it's been 43 years of very low growth, but even then, I still think at some point we will learn from our mistakes, and we will learn also from what we do well. On the debt issue that you just mentioned, we have 80% debt with 6.5% rates above inflation. This is a problem. We're going to have to address it. Period.
An aging population.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I see a couple things that actually give me hope. We have a lot of room for improvement everywhere. And two, I think it's very refreshing to see young people getting involved in politics and in the right way. So don't wipe out Brazil yet.
I don't think anybody does that. Let's end on a positive note. Stefan, why are you so positive about Brazil then?
The what, sorry?
Why are you positive about Brazil?
Oh, so first of all, I would say I think it's a very common feature that you see. People are domestically much more negative than foreigners are, right? So, yeah, I mean, we are at Deutsche Bank very positive about the LATAM region. We have been here for more than 100 years, and we see the potential this region and also Brazil has. And we hope that you will harvest even more on your potential.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Arminio. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.